than the house you live.
This is my my multi-million-dollar set, bro. I've got a new
thinking, is that Logan?
Oh shit, 4077 represent.
It's got Toowoomba vibes to the left.
Cam was just saying he was about to go to bed in about 2 minutes. And then you stitched him up.
Bro, I know Cam's not one to back down, man. As soon as I texted him, I knew he was keen to jump on. He's down, man.
I'll jump. It's always fun with you boys. I'm always down. It's a good one.
Yeah. We appreciate you jumping on, bro.
The great thing about jumping on with you today, Cam, is we wanted to cover off on your upcoming event in Perth, Eternal 68. We've got Rob Costa and sorry, I forgot. Yep.
So on the main event of that card, we've got Rod Costa, Kickboxer Costa, as he's became affectionately known after having a very heavy-handed knockout once. But obviously, Rod Costa, bit of a stalwart in the last 24 months in the Eternal scene. He's been on a rampage, fighting, putting his hand up to fight anybody in any weight class that he can make weight in, and looking fantastic doing it. He obviously come off a very disappointing for him title fight against Jack Jenkins. Picked up a few injuries in that fight in his leg, and he's decided to go back down to bantamweight after the rehab and getting back into camp. So with Sean Etchell heading off to road to the UFC recently in Singapore, vacated his bantamweight belt at that point to head over and chase that UFC dream. Unfortunately, at this time, it hasn't worked out for Sean, so he's heading back to Australian shores. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a number one contender fight. So Rod Costa versus Michael Manu at Eternal 68 in Perth is the number one contender fight for the bantamweight title, vacated by Sean Etchell, who will fight the winner for that belt.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
Look, it's a fantastic little card as well. And Perth always delivers. Through COVID, the way Perth was locked down, it's very difficult to get interstate fighters in and out of the state. So over the last 24 to 30 months, a lot of the fighters over there have been starved of opportunities. So since we've came back, these kids are going out there and they're looking to put on a show, and we've managed to stack this card with quite a lot of them, from Sebastian Sazali at the start of the Fight Pass card from Western Australia, all the way up through Candiata looking to get back on. We've got the Vacay brothers heading over from Auckland from City Kickboxing as well. We've got Jacinta Austin and Nyreen Crowley as a strawweight professional female fight. The card's just insane, top to bottom.
And the co-main event, is it a co-main event or is Don Mar fan?
Yeah, the Don Mar fan Quillen Salco fight. I didn't even mention that there, and that's probably one you'll like a lot, Shane, just simply because of your appreciation of jiu-jitsu. Both Quillen and Dom have got fantastic jiu-jitsu games that they've managed to implement properly into MMA, and sometimes they're just absolutely fantastic to watch. Both of them have come up very similar, fighting on and off in Eternal. Picked up a couple of wins and a couple of performance bonuses here and there. So getting to put them together just now, and they're both still young and quite early in their career, is a big test. But I think this is going to be the first of a couple of times these kids might meet, and it's a true 50-50. I really don't know who's going to win there. It's a fun fight. Sure.
I was reading the write-up on them, and I think they're both jiu-jitsu brown belts. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. That's unreal. And I think they're both previous Pan Pacific champions as well, or Pan Pac champions. So they're jiu-jitsu game. So really good background in jiu-jitsu.
I wouldn't think that was untrue. I haven't seen their jiu-jitsu bio, but yeah, you definitely with the way they perform, I would believe that.
Yeah, it's unreal. And so that's Eternal 68. That's happening in Perth. What's the date?
Yeah. That's August 20 over in Perth. Yeah. So look, it's just over 3 weeks away. So these cards are turning around quickly again. We used to do 10 in a calendar year, and it would be a breeze. But through COVID there, as I've been talking about, we were cutting down to 6 and 8 and we're getting a bit of breathing space between cards, but they're coming thick and fast again. And it's fantastic to see so many fighters staying active, to be able to put so many high level pros on cards every single month in Australia. The scene's just going through the roof just now.
Yeah, Eternal is definitely the standout right now on the MMA scene for MMA promotions. And so that's Eternal 68. That's going to be August 20th. It just so happens to be my birthday, just so everybody knows.
We'll get Hollywood Blake Richardson to give you a shout out if you want.
Sounds good. And then there's the real big one. Eternal turns 10 years old. Tell us about that.
Yeah, look, this is it's really pretty cool when you look at it. I started Eternal back in 2012. We had our first event at the Southport Sharks, and it was September 15th, 2012. So we're fast forward in 10 years, and we're going to have our anniversary weekend in the same venue. 10 years and 1 day since the first event. So that's really pretty cool, and it's very nostalgic. And sometimes I ask myself, is it cool, or is it that I should be saying I should be filling up arenas rather than still being Southport Sharks after 10 years? To be honest, I don't give a fuck, because the Southport Sharks is such a good venue to have an event in. We've been flirting with moving to the bigger stadiums for in the Gold Coast for just over a year now at Carrara Stadium that holds 4,000, and we're putting 1,500 and 1,600 people inside that stadium. And it's difficult to get an atmosphere. It still feels very intrinsic and pretty clinical when you're there. It just doesn't feel as if it's something that's grabbing your senses. When you're in the Southport Sharks and you've got 800 or 900 people round about you, and the fighters start to feel you oppressive upon the cage because everything's so close and the ceiling's that little bit lower. Everybody's emotions are lifted at the same time. It's a fantastic environment to be in. So look, to be able to put on the 2 nights in September, on the 16th and the 17th, practically 10 years to the day since show number 1, it's a pretty special moment. I'm very proud of it, and some of the fights we've got lined up are just nuts.
Yeah, and it's more or less Eternal's taking over the Southport Sharks.
Yeah, that's it. And look, Southport Sharks is a fantastic venue to us. No matter where we do a show on the Gold Coast or in Southeast Queensland, we utilise the Southport Sharks as a venue for our weigh-ins on the Friday. We set up base camp there as a team for Eternal, so we take over the couple of the boardrooms at Southport Sharks. We take over quite a lot of the hotel rooms, and we just base ourselves out of there for the weekend. It's became such a big operation that we really need to start doing that. There's that many people there capturing and editing content at any one time that it overwhelms me at sometimes. And all the fighters, we always accommodate them there at Southport Sharks. So even although we've strayed away from there as a venue to host events, sometimes it really still is our spiritual home.
So Cam, you've been doing this for 10 years. By the time your 10-year anniversary comes up, there'll be your 70th show, Eternal show. What does it take nowadays in terms of like manpower to actually run one of these shows? Like, how many people actually get involved?
That's a good one. You've been running Eternal for the 10 years. Obviously, it shows before it. 10 years ago when we started Eternal, there was basically me, my kids, Casey and Robin, and 2 other mates, Scott and Colin Pickett, who were running the backstage area, and that was it. And we done absolutely everything basically. At Eternal 1, and now we've done. By the time Saturday rolls round in September 17th, that'll be 71 shows, 70 Eternal shows. We've done 1 development series show that we were going to kick off when we were going to do the amateurs before we moved to Proving Grounds as the format. So 70 shows there, obviously rain as well. But now over the course of an event, you're probably looking at about 120 staff we've got involved over the event.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So everything from camera crews, your marketing guys, you guys on the scene, your referees.
Yeah, like everything we try and go above and beyond in everything that we do in terms of manpower and duplication of roles, just simply so that if anything seems to be causing any type of a blockage in the flow or the pacing of our show, that it doesn't affect the running of the rest of the show, because we've got somebody else to do the exact same role as well. In terms of referees, judges, medical staff, and officials, we definitely take the biggest team, to every single event that anybody does anywhere in Australia. We like to make sure that we've always got backups to make sure referees aren't under any type of stress and pressure with too many fights back to back, not being able to concentrate and focus on what's happening in front of them. So we make sure that we've got people to relieve them. We make sure we've got cut people backstage as well, so as that the doctor's always cage side. We've got other medical personnel backstage as well to make sure that happens. So we've got everything. We've got a dedicated person there shooting with 3 cameras for 12 hours during the day just for TikTok. We've got 6 people shooting behind the scenes with cinematographic cameras as well. We're capturing terabytes and terabytes of footage that nobody actually even sees, that we're now employing people to scan through, edit, catalog, and make available to us. So it's massive.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And for the people who are first time, I guess, tuning in, getting to know who you are, Eternal now on UFC TV.
Yeah, we're on UFC Fight Pass. So if you've got a subscription to watch anything at all on UFC Fight Pass, which is a very popular OTT streaming service in Australia for watching the UFC and a lot of the grappling events, and for all these people who love combat sports, Eternal's on there as well. Our main cards are on there. Our undercards at the moment are available via Eternal MMA with our own pay-per-view channel. And we've got a deal with ESPN where we've got we've got a show that goes on every week post event on ESPN2 and KO. So we've got another couple of broadcast deals in the pipeline as well internationally. So there's a lot of exciting things coming up with that.
So a lot of the fighters coming through now get that sort of like, I guess, higher level exposure being on the Eternal card.
Yeah.
I guess
it's not just the higher level exposure as well. We are spending our time trying to do what we can to develop this talent as well. We like to think of ourselves as a truly national product now, and we're bringing people to make the most exciting and the fairest, most competitive matchups that there is available in Australia just now, regardless of the fighter's location. For so long in Australia, people have made matches dependent on the ticket sales that they get round about, which has seen lopsided matches and some fighters in some areas unable to get opportunities, etc. And we're just lucky in the way that with a lot of our corporate partners that we are able to have a different model and go out there and just put on the best matches, find the best talent, make the closest, most competitive matches, and help these athletes grow by challenging themselves and treating them as well as we can.
And you live and breathe MMA as well. You and your family definitely live and breathe MMA.
It's one of the things, and it's actually a good. It's a great conversation. Not a great conversation. It's a great conversation in our house because it's all that ever goes on. But I just feel very, very blessed to be able to sit back at the moment, and no matter what I've done in terms of with Eternal and for Australian MMA, I feel blessed to be able to sit back and smile and know that I've got 2 kids that share the love that I have for a particular sport, and a sport that in its various forms and guises before it even became what it is today, spent so many hours standing on mats and running around club halls as a kid, and they managed to enjoy that process as well. But both of them now are making a living out of it, which is fantastic to think that I've got a a 21-year-old daughter who, at the time she was 19, started her first business as an MMA promoter and managed to hold a financially successful MMA promotion at 19, where nobody else has ever done that, male or female.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Casey at 24 years old, getting into the UFC, racking up 4 wins in her first 12 months, 3 finishes, finishing as UFC, ESPN, and every single media writer's Rookie of the Year for that. It's just
amazing.
It's fairy tale stuff. I just think to myself, is this mad? Am I just living in my own world and everybody else is as well? But it's kind of special.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, while there's a gap in in conversation, I just wanted to jump back onto Eternal 65, Cam, and just get your thoughts on Kuhn and Dimps.
How did I know that's what you were going to ask you, Sam?
Yeah, look, man, I got mad like Bonner and Griffin vibes from it. Remember the tough finale, man. Like that was for me when I saw that, I was like, dude, that was like the Bonner and Forrest Griffin fight for like the equivalent for Eternal, man. Like, what are your thoughts on like the amount of publicity and exposure that those two fighters got for Eternal?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. It's so easy to make that that comparison or have the synergy between the two fights. All 4 fighters in both fights showed nothing but heart and class throughout. From beginning to end, they were gentlemen warriors that were in there sharing a cage with somebody else that was willing to go just as far as they were willing to go, and it probably come down to the closest of margins in every single round for both fights. Look, it was a great fight, and I'm so happy both boys got all the exposure they did. Yeah, it was fantastic for Eternal. We've got to put our hands up and say it is great. It's great to have promoted that fight. We can champion the fact that we match made that fight and we put it together. But in reality, they 2 kids themselves match made that fight. That was a match made in heaven. The 2 of them are 2 of the most likable and charismatic guys in Australian MMA who go out there with bad intentions in every single fight. So you were probably always going to expect that fight. And for it to go down the way that it did, to it finish the way that they did, and for the 2 of them to come out of it with as much exposure is testament to they 2 kids only. They 2 guys done, we couldn't pay them enough. If somebody says, "Oh, how much did you get paid for that fight?" We couldn't ever pay anybody enough money to do what they two guys done. So I hope that they got it all back and adulation and pride for what they done. So we were certainly grateful to be able to have witnessed it. It was great.
That's awesome. Did you have any other?
I just wanted to fanboy more out on these. Cam's done a great job, man. Like 10 years. I remember like when we first hit him up to do the podcast. This is like years and years ago, right?
I was skinny and young and good looking back then.
Yeah, we all were, man.
10 years later, I'm the grumpiest cunt you'll ever meet. I've got a white beard and I'm so obese.
Man, but like we could see it then, right? Because like for me, I was like I observed the way you run your business, and everything was like you were always kept very professional with the way you operated, the way you treated people, the way you interacted. And I think it's no surprise to anybody that that we're coming up on your 10th anniversary for Eternal. I just wanted to ask you, like, what's your most valuable lesson that you've learned over the decade of promoting Eternal?
I don't know about the most valuable lesson I've ever learned. I've learned a lot of lessons, obviously. I think probably the most valuable lesson, is learning to be able to remove my emotions from anything that I do in the business. As you say, 10 years ago when I was starting with Eternal, when I came from Gory, and I was coming to Eternal and started it, and I was a lot younger obviously than I am now. I was still in my 30s, and I was a bit of a mouth, and I like to, whereas I was acting professionally in business, outside of it I was acting very, very brash and emotionally, and I reacted emotionally in business because of some things that peers or competitors at that time were doing. And I think one of the main lessons that I've learned is that to remove emotion and just look at things logically. You know, that's the best way to deal with anything, especially in this business, because there's so many emotions involved in it. You know, it's mad.
That's very good advice. I remember that interview that we did at the 8 Ball office.
Yeah.
After a few drinks of whiskey, got quite good. It was a great
I
interview.
can't remember who won the keepy uppy competition. Who was
Oh,
that?
bro, you murdered me, man. I like
Ah,
dude, bro. Hey, while we're on this whiskey, man, like, how'd you this proper 12, right? Do you rate it? Like, what is? I know, like, I'm putting you on a spot right now, but man, like, I've never known you to
for
lie.
the bit that you're going to keep, for the bit you're going to keep in the podcast, it's fantastic. But I get very good reports from it from everybody who drinks it. I don't drink spirits. It's just something I don't do. So,
Yeah. That's a safe bet.
It's not just because of that. A lot of people projectile vomit after 6 or 7, different glasses or something. I have one drink of any type of spirit and my stomach seems to reject it. So it's not something that I can drink. So unfortunately, I'm not sure, but it goes down very well. At that last event there, which was Eternal 67 in the Gold Coast, that was the first time we'd properly activated Champions Club, which is what that's the rights that the proper 12 have came on board and taken. They've taken the name and rights to the Champions Club. So in the Champions Club, we're going to give them a proper 12, we're going to give them a proper VIP experience. So we're in there, it's all proper 12 themed.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if you've seen some of the media from the last show. We wrapped. We've got like life-size corners and we wrapped the inside of the bar. And we've got proper 12 free all night for people in the Champions Club, and you're really looked after. You've got food, etc. So that's something that we're actually going to develop, because one thing that we're pushing away from and we're trying to break the mold on in combat sports in all of Australia is the tables that you get roundabout. Roundabout cages. There seems to be a couple of different groups or genres or demographics of people that go to combat sports events. There's the people who are the fans of the event, the people who are the friends and family of the people who are fighting, and there's people who think that for $250 they're getting a 2-course meal, 4 hours worth of piss, and they can sit in a circle with their back to the fights with a knife and fork for dinner. We're trying to do away with that, so we're introducing a proper 12s Champions Club, where we're bringing people in proper cage side seats without tables in front of them. We're bringing them right up cage side, and we're giving them. They're still going to have a package, but it's going to be in a breakout room where we'll meet and greets with UFC stars, and they'll be able to, hang out roundabout like pop-up bars to speak to their friends, etc. The likes of Perth, we're going to have Jack Della doing a meet and greet in the Champions Club in Perth in August 20, and September 16 and 17th in the Gold Coast. We're going to have King Casey over from the States. She's going to be doing a meet and greet and basically just loitering in the Champions Club, so people will get to get signatures or photos or whatever they want. And that's something we're going to build on.
I say that to say, maybe you might not drink whiskey, but Shannon and I do. So, and I don't mind. I don't mind me a proper 12.
I'll get you a couple of bottles for you. I'll get you a couple of bottles for Christmas. It's now when I'm buying anybody a present, they get a bottle of proper 12.
Okay, let's go.
My 13-year-old niece didn't like it, but my brother. I'm only joking.
All right, guys. Cam, thank you very much for being on the show. We really appreciate you jumping on. Literally, I think we hit up Cam about 10 minutes before he jumped on.
He's ambushed me.
That's how we roll, baby.
Yeah. I just finished something I rolled, and I'm like, okay.
For everyone who wants to check it out, eternalmma.com.au, jump on the website or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Eternal MMA. Cheers,
Legend.
guys.
Awesome.
Thanks very
Thanks,
much, Cam.
guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah.
All right.
Legend.